are how to allow ourselves to be able to capture all day moves, okay, without having to deal with big losses or giving back big profits, okay? So we'll talk about that. All right, so let's go ahead and hop in. We should be good to go. All right. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for August 16th, 2019. All right, Q's up 1.65, SPY up 1.5. So, coming into today, all right, we were maintaining a bearish bias with the expectation that we'll probably get a rally. So we'll get a rally, and I don't expect the rally to get continuation, okay? So we've gotten the rally has started to base, and my plan was to stay bearish as long as we stay below 294.15 on the SPY, and here on the Qs would be over 189.70. So we're now back halfway between support and resistance. Okay, so we're now kind of in the middle area. We stayed pretty bullish today. That I do have to acknowledge, more bullish than I would have expected. So, we're just now starting to put in a little bit of a sell setup here. But I do think that this bullishness was a little bit surprising. Not really what I expected. Okay. So, we'll have to see if we get this sell setup, and this sell setup does not make it back to the lows and we fail on it, then I'll have to go to neutral. I will have to lose the bearish bias. Okay, so that's what we're seeing right now. Okay, still going to be bearish going into Monday, but I'm starting to think that if we kind of stay longer in this mid-range point, we don't get follow through to the downside, that we're going to be back to neutral. It's been a very sloppy week in the market here. A lot of back and forth. Wide range green bar, and then wide range red bar, bottoming tail right, and then now back up. You can see we tried to move up previously, came down, back up. So a lot of back and forth here this week. Okay, and so, maybe neutral would have been the place to be all week, and we were for most of the week until we got this breakdown here. So for the time being, I'm going to be bearish going into Monday. This would be our line in the sand, 185.95. If we break that, we will be back to neutral. We really did just get this hourly sell setup to trigger just within the last hour. So that's what we're going to work with. Okay, so over today's high, we're going to go to neutral. I'm going to stay bearish until then. All right. All right, so, and then on the SPY here, let's just make sure, yeah, we got a similar pattern here. So over today's high on the SPY, neutral. All right, which is fine because I kind of prefer neutral days to pick up on some nice all-day trends, okay? So that's where we're going to get into here, all right? So there are 4 things that I want to see when I want to have the expectation that I'm going to hold it all day. Okay, first things is maybe the most important, but I do want to see all 4, preferably 3 out of 4 is still pretty good. Okay, and that we had a gap. Okay, that we had a change in price from yesterday's close to today's open. Okay, I'm going to be using all short examples. This works the same for long examples. Okay, I'm just going to be using short examples because I want them to all be easily comparable. Okay, so today, the ADS, all right, we gave an entry on this as a breakdown right here. Okay, here was the base. All right, it was about $1 stop given the spread. Okay, it was underneath 143.50, and you can see it's gone $4.50. All right, so we're talking about 4 to 5, almost 5 times what you risk. Right, so yeah, so 4.5 hours is where it's at, right? Don't expect anyone to hold the whole thing necessarily to here, right? But that tells you at least there's a lot of potential, right? So we don't have to worry about, oh, did I get the very bottom, and that's the only thing I can do, right, to make any kind of profit. This you can kind of scale your way out of and still end up a really nice play, right? So the ADS there was the breakdown right off the 2-minute. You see the declining 20 MA curling over it, breakdown, right, expecting new lows. Okay, so back to the criteria here. First, I want to see a gap. Okay, we have that. I want to see that there is a huge increase in volume, that people really care about this gap, that there is a reaction, that other time frame players, not just your market makers, not just your day-to-day scalpers, other people are getting involved, right? And so we definitely have that. You'll be able to tell that usually within the first 5 to 10 minutes. You'll see it in the very first 15-minute bar that it is off the charts as far as volume, okay? So number 1, gap. Number 2, volume. Number 3, I want to see something happening on the weekly chart. Typically some kind of trend change. Now, prior to today's gap, what was this doing? Moving up. The longer term trend is down, but notice we are starting to change after, right, 6 weeks of rallying. Okay, so it's now erasing all of that rallying. So we do have something very eventful happening here on the weekly. Okay, and the last thing is I want to see relative weakness to the market. Here is the ADS, basing at the lows, breaking down. What are the Qs and SPY doing? They are in all-out uptrend today. Okay, so ADS, 4 for 4. We got nice relative weakness. We have an increase in volume. The weekly is showing something significant, changing what was the recent move on the weekly, and we have a gap. Okay? Now, it's not the case necessarily that every single one of these that has all the qualities will necessarily close at the lows. Okay? So some of them might recover, some might bounce over lunch, some might bounce shortly after lunch, okay, or before the last hour, right? So, for instance, the TPR. We went over this yesterday on the TPR, right? On the TPR, do we have the same kind of 4 qualities? We can walk through this here on the TPR. Is something significant happening on the weekly? Yeah, we're breaking down to all-time lows here, breaking that base. Okay, do we have a gap? We sure do, even a bit of an excessive gap yesterday here. Okay, was it showing relative weakness? It was downtrending all morning. Market was a little bit more back and forth, so yes, relative weakness, and you can see that the volume yesterday off the charts. Okay, so this was 4 for 4 as far as what we want to see in something to be held all day. Now, when did this put in the bottom? Okay, it did it, yeah, before with still about an hour and a half left in the day. Okay, so that's when it put in the bottom. Okay, not too bad of a bounce, right? And even if you waited till the end of the day to close it, not too bad. What about this WK though, right? This WK, which we played the day prior. Okay, we had this gap down, gapping against a weekly chart here, breaking the weekly, all right, and putting in big volume on this day. Okay, putting in big volume. We have the gap showing weakness. All right, so we have all the qualities here in this one, okay, and it was looking pretty good until we had to trail it, okay, and that's what we want to get into next. This was looking pretty good. I thought this was a very good candidate for an all-day hold, but actually rallied back hard. Okay, so what do? We don't have to give back all our profit when it does this, right? If we've already determined we want to hold it all day, what can we do? Okay, and this is what I want to get into here as far as the management style. What I do, right, after I've taken the initial target, when it's broken to new lows, right, when we have a decently nice bit of reward, right, somewhere in between 1 and 2 hours usually, okay, take that. The play is more or less a free play now, even if it goes all the way back up to the stop, and I trail on the hourly here. So that you see here on the WK, you trail on the hourly, okay, and you get trailed out right over there, over 55.45, okay, right? So you don't have to worry about, I'm giving up all that profit. You trail it over the hourly. Now, when it works the best, when you do get an all-day trend, what should it look like, right? And that's what we have on the ADS. See that? Typically, if these are going to go all day, the hourly will hold, okay? here on the TPR. Where do we get trailed out? Here, right? We said it bottomed kind of before the last hour there. You can see it trailed over that bar, right? And sometimes they'll just trail out and go nowhere. But we have that trail in there so that if you're down to the back half, if you're down to the back quarter, you don't have to give this whole thing back, okay? So this I found also is a lot easier than other trails because you know exactly when you're getting your new trail, when this bar finishes forming. If you're playing pivots, things like that, you don't know exactly when the pivot's gonna form, so it's easy to get impatient. And even with this, sometimes I get impatient. I think generally I'm an impatient person, and so in my trading, it definitely shows up. So knowing that I'm gonna get another trail exactly when, say I only gotta wait 30 more minutes and I'm worried about this bouncing, or 20 more minutes, right, before that next bar finishes forming, right, it can help me be just a little bit more patient, wait for that trail to form. Okay, so this is what I like. So on the ADS, right, we went over the ADS. I think initial targets, it was under 143.50. First targets were around 142.50, right? You got there, you trailed some, could have taken some more as we got into lunch. And then the rest, you just, every time one of these bars finishes, you just lower the stop, right? So it does look easy. I promise you it's not that hard, okay? It's being patient is the hardest part, letting these bars form, right? But these are where the big profits, the big home runs come in. And if you just trail it this way, right, you don't have to worry so much about, am I going to give the whole thing back? Am I going to have a strong run against me? Because you have that trail in place. Sometimes they will trail, right? And sometimes, you won't get all that much out of it before it reverses, right? Or sometimes you'll get a decent play, right, before it reverses, okay, like we did on this, right? That was a pretty good play. We played it before it broke the lows, right? So that's what I like to use. It's the management that I use for all of the all-day trends, okay? And I thought, these were kind of 3 good examples just from the last few days. All were shorts, and all really met the criteria we're looking for. So you can see that even if it meets all 4 criteria, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be an all-day trend, but it does. These are more likely to be the all-day trends than just, I don't know, any day that you pick on it. Say you pick on it, on this day, which it wasn't gapping, volume didn't really increase, right? Or this day, right? I mean, look at the size of this bar in comparison to all these other bars, right? This is the day. You want to hold it as long as you can, right? And the ADS worked the best out of all of these, the ADS that we got today, right? And just look at the size of that bar. So these are the big opportunities that you want to try to be in, right, as long as you can, okay? So again, the 4 criteria I'm looking for is that there's a gap that is doing something damaging to the weekly, there's a huge increase in volume, okay, and that it's showing relative weakness to the market, suggesting it's on its own page. Even if the market rallies, even if the market's in an uptrend, this ADS was gonna go lower in any market environment, because today, as we saw, market was pretty bullish. All right, so hopefully that can help you spot some of the plays that have big reward potential, but also give you a way to manage them, right, without having to give back too much profit in the play. Okay. All right, so these are really, really crucial to my day trading. They're basically what I focus on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so hope you had a good week. All right, I thought it was pretty busy this week still. Hopefully next week we'll get more of the same. If you're interested in checking out the Strategic Day Trader and you didn't take advantage of the recent promotion, we are doing an open house next week. Okay, all you have to do is register, and then you can come in the room, and you can be there all week, and you'll get all the same plays, all the same information that the subscribers get. Okay, so you'll get these plays, right? And you'll see me manage these in real time. All right, so you'll see kind of this stuff put into practice. We'll also, in kind of questions that you have over the methodology, over the room, you'll have your chance to answer, okay? Because we are broadcasting from 30 minutes before the open till the close, generally. Okay? All right, so be on the lookout for that. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to contact T3. But next week will be a really nice opportunity for those of you curious but didn't get a chance to take advantage of the current promotion to look into the open house. All right, and we'll be there for you to go over our trading and your questions. All right. In the meantime, have a great weekend. All right, we'll be back at it on Monday, and I will talk to you then. Have a good evening.